The NASCC, and we are still here, Fuzzy Wuzzy and Alpha Jackal. And Alpha, the bottom two teams for the NASCC are going to be playing in this one. And AJ, to me, it just seems like it's going to be hard to differentiate who's actually going to win this game, Average Joes or Fishies. But I don't know. I've seen Average Joes play. I've seen Fishies play. To me, I do know it's going to be an exciting match of a lot of kills.
Yeah, this is going to be a scrappy game from both. Fishies need to win this set and then need to win the set next week and hope results go their way in order to try and contest for that fourth seed to avoid relegations. For Average Joes, it is a case of win this set and then have a winner takes all set versus winner dogs for that fourth seed. Otherwise, they are relying on that result plus the result of Fishies to go their way to get that fourth. So there's still loads of potential for both of these teams to escape these upcoming relegations, but it all comes down to who gets the better end of it in this match.
Well, picks and bans are about to start here. And AJ, you mentioned it yourself. It's more of like for Fishies, just pray that everything works out in their favor. And Average Joe's, it's kind of a win-in situation. They have to win this week and they have to win next week and they're in. So in my mind, this is all Average Joe's fate, but Fishies can play spoiler. And if Fishies play spoiler, it might look to be a little bit more interesting because if they win this week and they win next week, one loss for somebody puts them over the edge and they're into that SOC SCC fight for that fourth spot. As bans are starting to come out, nothing too crazy. Everything's kind of neutral. Seems like everybody knows Sobek, Tsukiyomi, Athena. Wouldn't be surprised if we see a Tiamat. Wouldn't be surprised if we see a set. Just normal bans coming out.
Yeah, Heimdall up there as well. We might even see a Chiron ban if you really wanted to, with how prevalent he's been these days. Wukong's a bit of an odd one. Fishies probably have been prevalent on this pick in the past and have shown that it's one of the ways that they have found their rather limited victories was through this pick, so that's probably why it's been banned away by Average Joes. The Tiamat does round us and bring us back to a sense of normality with what we should be seeing as these bans, so it's up to Average Joes to determine what they feel is first pick worthy. Cullen and Chiron are probably the two that I've got on top of my mind.
But on the top of their mind, they say, nay, we want the Raijin. And then the Raijin is being hovered right now. And I do agree with you. I think that the Cullen or the Chiron would be a first pick, but they elect to get with this Raijin. Something that we've seen quite often be really prevalent in this mid lane, who's able to just have those long-range ultimate and the Raiju just be able to go around and bounce between players and minions and just do incredible amounts of damage and slow people. So Average Joes do get that. But Fishy say, hey, what's not yours is definitely mine. They pick the Chiron, and I wouldn't be surprised if they pick that Cullen next pick.
Yeah, Kakala has been a standout pick in the SCC recently. Gilgamesh, we completely forgot about him. Mainly because he has almost been this sort of sleeper pick in that last set. It did well, but it didn't have a standout performance that made me go, wow, this is a top pick potential god. And I don't think we're going to see that sort of level from Gilgamesh in most games because the way his kit is designed, because of the way it functions in team fights and how you can counter it, it is going to be difficult for him to get that performance where he's 9-0, 10-0 coming from the jungle, or whether he is super fed in solo and getting solo kills left, right, and center. Now the emoji being picked up here by Average Joes. I like it against the Chiron because Chiron can get locked in with that River's Rebuke, meaning it's going to be very difficult for him to escape from these sort of team fights. A lot of focus onto the dual lane so far from this draft from Average Joes.
Well, Ymir is going to be locked in. Definitely a counter pick for, I would say, pretty much everybody on the side of Average Joes, but especially the King Arthur. When he gets into that spin to win, he can just go, no, you're going to freeze in that position right there, and then just get locked in position. So I wouldn't be surprised to see King Arthur maybe electing to go with beads for maybe his second relic choice. But Serket got to be banned out for the Fishies. A little bit surprising there, considering that the more of the healing falls on the left-hand side of your screen on the Average Joes. Scylla going to be the next ban out. Again, no surprise there for the mid laners. They don't want anybody to be kind of coming out with crazy amounts of damage. Set, again, getting banned out. We expected this stuff. Everything's kind of starting to normalize here. Wouldn't be surprised to see a Giannis ban maybe out of Average Joes, just because Giannis does have the ability to kind of push away. But you mentioned that he does have one of the lower win rates in this game.
Yeah, Giannis, if you have a look on Smite.gg, which is an open source for pretty much everyone, it shows that Giannis, one of the highest pick rates in the game, but does have the lowest win rate when it comes to pretty much every single level of ranked out there. So it does change a little bit in competitive. He does gain some stats there, but it doesn't put him up to a top win rate god. Speaking of win, Goddess of Victory, Nike has been picked up here for Fishies. That could go into the jungle, could go into the solo lane alongside the Gilgamesh. So big flex potential here for the Fishies. A lot of frontline, a lot of beefiness on their composition. Average Joes, do they have the raw damage potential to burn this down? It's a lot of damage over time coming from them. So I'm looking at their ADC choice. On her's not the one I would have expected.
Yeah, on her gets locked in for the average Joes, but you're talking about beef. Fishy's got it, and they got beef with the average Joes. They want to make sure that they pick up this set win to keep their hopes alive. As average Joes wait to pick up that final slot, they are going to look for the jungler, and there are a couple of junglers that are open that could be potential. Ratatasker being one of them. Wheelix is actually going to be the one that gets locked in. More surprising than not, but you do have to realize that Ganesh and the Nike do have leaps, so that is a good pickup for them. But I've always said that a Wheelix is a bait pick when it comes to competitive. Maybe my words will be eaten there, but Merlin will be the final round out pick for the Fishies. And you want to talk about the beef squad versus the damage squad, AJ? I gotta say the beef squad looks a little bit better in my eyes.
I like the beef squad. It's got nice, big, threatening front line versus two gods that do well either mixing in damage from long range with the Chiron or up close and personal with the Merlin. Meanwhile, average Joes, they got to rely on the fact that the Wheelix on her and Raijin Burst can get through the front line that is Knight, Gilgamesh, and Ymir. And to be honest, I don't really see it happening as quickly as they expect it to.
Well, we are going to go into game number 1 between average Joes and the Fishies. And AJ, when we're jumping into this game, you're going to see a lot of recognizable names. You got Elion, you got Byron Airy, you got Griff, a lot of people that we have seen in the past play in not only the SPL, but the SML and the SCC. And then my eye, though, drifts again to the Beef Squad, and I look at Kirmi. Kirmi is playing this Gilgamesh pick right now. And Kirmi has been one of those guys, kind of like how it was with the EU side. He either needs to be all in, or he's just not going to produce the results that he normally can do. With his Gilgamesh pitch, will it fall more into his playstyle?
Well, Gilgamesh, as I've said time and time again, is one of the picks that can run the early game because the fact that he's a warrior, he has naturally better protection scaling than a traditional assassin, but can still build into those sort of damaging items, can go into the stone cutting sword, can go into a Titan's Bane, can go into a Jotun's Wrath earlier on if he wanted to, and start to put out the hurt, whilst, you know, his abilities do chunk. That kick really does hurt if you get hit by it into a wall. It just slams your health down to about half.
Oranjaru gets stunned out by Yemoja, Promise making sure that he does some damage onto Ocean, and wave hasn't been cleared just yet by the boys in blue, but they're able to do so. But Kirmi and Nehu have made their rotation onto this right-hand side, but Wheelix is going to go ahead and pick up both of those Harpies because making sure that they just keep alive is going to be the name of the game. Nehu needs to get to that level 7, level 8 mark, but Griff's going to get frozen out. He's going to get hit with a couple of autos from Ocean. The Giddy Up comes out. The leap as well. Like Promise is the one that got knocked back. Promise is going to get slowed, but the beads come out. No marksman shot as of yet, so Promise will keep around with 200 health.
Surprising to see the beats from the emotion, but then you have a look at what he's got to contend with. The wall, the freeze, the kick, the damage, the knockback. It is a lot of disruption, a lot of lockdown coming out from the side of Fishy, so it then makes a lot more sense to see the fact that he has picked up these beats just to be a bit more effective and a bit more around his team, rather than being just CC to absolute oblivion before he can get any of his abilities off.
Well, it does look like that they have a lot more pressure with this. Wheelix at some point still has the beats, but it looks like that she's trying to make sure that she keeps her mid laner alive. When you have Raijin, you just want to make sure that he gets to that level 5 mark. He can be very potent when he hits that level 5 and making sure that he rotates. And because of that immense range that he has with his ultimate, AJ, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they're looking something on this dual lane side, maybe on the solo side, because he's actually getting pushed back a little bit by Chronic on this Nike.
You would expect to see the Nike sort of lose a bit of the matchup, but then also have the better end of it at times. It just depends on who starts their clear a bit first. Nike's clear a bit more quick than it would be for the King Arthur at the stage of the game. As King Arthur starts to level up and gets his one-up a bit more, it would be a bit quicker for him. I thought Oceans was just about to get a monster engagement onto Promise, but luckily he was just looking for the Scorpion. But then Chronic, as he gets more into this midpoint of the game, more towards the later stages, could have a better impact than this King Arthur because of his slow potential and zone potential that he'll have onto Leon and Griff.
And what's even crazier, AJ, is as I'm looking at the builds, right? No one has Sunder on the average Joes. There is 0 Sunder.
They'll get it later.
And yeah, it should be later, right? But Promise, who would it go to? Would it go to Promise or would it go to Uzi? Because Uzi also has beads as well because of how much CC capabilities the Fishies have. So if you're anybody, you give it to Promise because that's gonna have to be an upgraded Sunder to really do anything to this Nike.
It has to go on to Promise. Uzi has got the beads as well. Needs Blink to be threatening it. I'm so very surprised that Uzi's also got the beads as one of his relics. I'm scared of this. This just shows how much they respect Ocean's Ymir. I mean, King Arthur doesn't really care about Gilgamesh from time to time, especially if it's going to be a gank from Gilgamesh. If he puts down the winds, he's just going to spin right out of that. There's no danger that Uzi gets knocked back into the center of it and gets rooted. I can just get away from that kick as well.
Well, Leon and Promise are able to secure these left-hand side XP camps, and that will help out. The supports now have made their presence known in the mid lane. That is going to see who's going to determine and win this 3-for-3 matchup. But the gold lead, surprisingly, is favoring Fishies right now. They're farming a little bit more efficiently. They're winning some lanes. It seems like that most of that gold lead might fall more into the solo lane side, just because of the fact of how much pressure that Chronic does have over Uzi. But Promise is around, just making sure that he keeps everybody alive. He does have that healing potential. He is a walking fountain, after all, being Umoja. So Byronary just gonna continue to clear up minions, and he just wants to maintain this level lead or like half level lead that he has, and try his best to just keep farming up. Because once he hits that level 7, level 8 marker, that's probably when he's gonna start looking for these engagements.
Indeed, he's just gonna look to just try and make his presence felt a bit more. But jumping in as Chronic, surprised to see the aggressive play from the Nike, but Chronic does have the aggression. They're looking for Leon, and they might find him here for early kill of First Blood. They're going to wall up his escape, and, well, that shot device just confirms it. First Blood goes away Fishies.
Well, what's even better is that Kirmi popped up his ultimate to try to see if he can get Uzi coming back down, but unfortunately Uzi has to pop the beads. First Blood does fall to Oceans, but a great rotation coming out from Fishies just to collapse on this. But Uzi is locked between a rock and a hard place. I'm waiting for another wall. Kirmi picks up a kill for himself. That is 2 for the price of none. Fishies are showing why they need this win.
Yeah, they really are hungry for this win. It's not something that they've found success in the past, is getting these wins. I think only 1 set all split so far, but it's looking good for them so far. 2 kills up, 1,500 gold in the lead, 5.5 minutes in, and it's against a team that you would say that they have the best chance of winning against. This average Joe's roster sitting down in that 5th seed with only 2 wins to their name, all split long. One of them was against the Fishies earlier on, so this is the time for them to push forward and try and look to play on the aggressive and try and secure themselves their 2nd win.
It seems like that Fishies were they were so close at certain times and then just not able to reach over the edge. They have had better early games every single time they play. They, in fact, have more kills in the early game than I think any other team in the NASCC. So maybe that's what's happening. But average Joes, they could say, hey, we're just going to back it up, play a little bit more patient, because we know that they falter in the end of the mid game. So Oceans trying to get some damage onto Elion, but recognizing that 4 members are on this left-hand side, Uzi again is going to be the target for this Gilgamesh as he makes the rotation over on the right-hand side. The drop kick into the wall, no beads available for him, but the spin to win is here. He's going to get leaped on. He's also going to get leaped on again. Chronic will pick him up with the ultimate. That is 3 kills for the Fishies, 2 on the solo lane and 1 on the jungler.
Surprising to see that they're putting this much attention, this much focus in the solo lane, but that's where they feel they have the opportunity to get these kills, so gold credit to them, and it's working out for them quite well. The Nike pick, little bit of an oddball pick, but it's doing well. It's doing what it needs to do against this King Arthur, which is just sustain, stall out the lane a little bit more, and then go for the aggressive when they needed to. And what's better, if Elion pulls Chronic back in, it's not doom and gloom. He's got that extra health shield at Sentinel of Zeus just to completely negate the damage that's done to him for the time being.
Yeah, and that's the play, right? I think the Awelix pick, again, I've always said, and I said it in the first game, it's kind of a bait pick when it comes to competitive, because who are you going to pull in? All right, let's think about it hypothetically. We pull in Chronic, health shield. We pull in Kirmi. Oh, he's just going to ult me, and when I feather step, then I have no potential escape to get out of his route. And that's just what's going to happen as Promise blinks in, freezes onto Promise. Promise is going to throw up the Reaver's Rebuke. Try to see if he can land on Ocean. Says, there it is, the knockup. Elyon picks up Ocean. Why do you want to pick up the tank? Because here it comes crashing in. Promise is going to fall to Ocean, picking up one. Elyon's going to fall here pretty soon to Nehu, who picks up one. Byronary also ulted earlier in that fight. So nothing happens except you plucked Oceans. You plucked the tank.
Oh,
and now Uzi here again is just by himself. He's going to stop the auto attacks from coming through with Chronic, but nothing else is going to fall for it. So remember when I said that, AJ? Why the Wheelix pick?
I mean, I guess it's because they feel like they can pull in the Ymir and blow him up quickly, but it didn't happen that time. There was just no burst around Bayonary, not around to try and help deal the damage. Griff over on this left-hand side, so there's no follow-up from him. A lot of damage mitigated as well by the fact that he had that Ymir passive applied to absolutely everyone because he used the Shards of Ice earlier. That extra damage mitigation, the damage reduction, sorry, onto the targets affected just saves Ocean's life and allows them to turn around and get those kills.
And it seems like that Fishies, they're playing a lot better than they usually have. Right about now, at the 9-minute mark, is when we start to see things kind of fall apart a little bit. Right now, they're in the driver's seat. Rinjaro might be pushed back because of Griff, but it's not going to be too much when it comes to it because nothing's going to really happen on that carry lane side. They're just going to try to see if they can rotate as the pinks come out saying, hey, we know that Nehu is over in the mid lane. That's a free red buff for you, Promise. And Invade comes out, so they get something for it. But at what cost? They're 2,000 gold down. Rinjaro's going to use the giddy up to get away, but a great pillar comes out to stop him. Rinjaro now is trapped between a rock and a hard place in a couple of ways as Grip picks him up.
And that's the first kill on the board for Average Joe's. Beautiful play by Griff, not only to wait until the charge was down before using that Desert Fury, but for getting the pillar to make sure he couldn't get away with the giddy up. I just love seeing how technically gifted these players are these days on her. The pillar placements have been absolutely immaculate. It's not been used just to get a bit of a slow field around some people and some extra damage. It's been used as a wall to greater effect than what we've seen some Ymir walls been used for.
Uzi taking a lot of damage from Chronic, and Chronic just saying, yeah, I'm a Nike who has been a part of every single kill that my team has because they have mostly been on you in the jungler when you're making your rotations here. He's just making his presence known, saying, yeah, back away, little boy. We know what you're here for. As Chronic is getting pinged out, Elyon's going to try to see if he can maybe fight him in the jungle, but recognizes that that's probably not the smartest idea. He's going to run away. Ocean's around just to see if maybe he can get Byronary or Promise out of position. Beads are up for everyone. Blink is available for a Wheelix. Maybe some aggression that comes out, but Elyon picking up Crusher on a Wheelix, that's not something that we usually would see from a Wheelix player.
No, it's not. You sometimes would see a Yone's Draft at this point. You sometimes do see a Stone-Cutting Sword at this point. I mean, it gives stats that you kind of want. Pyromancer is something you want as well if Fishies take that off, but back to the Crusher, it gives some attack speed, gives some power, gives some penetration, all of which Willix goes, yes please, I'll take more of that. But maybe it's, I don't know, I don't really like it, but at the same point, I think it's kind of necessary for them to get that extra dot damage off to burn people a bit quicker.
Pings are coming out. The red buff is their next target. Oceans recognizes that. He's going to freeze Promise. That's a lot of damage and a great wall from Oceans. A big boom is going to happen and Oceans picks him up. The support player is on a killing spree. Oceans picks him up with the ult. And now that's going to be a free red buff to make sure that, hey, you're not getting it this time. And your support's going to die for it. Yumi has made the rotation here as well. They could look for Gold Fury because that early Pyromancer that they were able to get at the 10-minute mark. Pings are coming out to see if maybe they look to invade somewhere, but instead, they're just not going to worry about it. They're going to make sure that they give Chronic just a little bit more pressure in the jungle so that no one rotates on him while he's freezing this wave.
Now, Promise being on the receiving end of Yamoja statistics here, coming in from one of our production members, Jethin's 36.84% win rate on Yamoja so far in the SCC. Not a good look for the god that a lot of teams value quite highly and has been picked up quite a lot recently. And it's just going the same way that it's usually done for Yamoja then. It's been a decent start followed by just a massive downhill the second the teamfights have started.
Yeah, it just seems like that Promise hasn't been able to live up to the expectations that most Emoji Mario players have. But we do have to mention, Oceans, yet again, has been a part of 5 of the 6 kills for his team. And he's gotten 3 of them himself. Oceans is kind of on another level. He's got the blink still available. He just seems to always be around on the map when he needs to be there. And that's just what Ymir's bring. They're able to, and with the vines that came up, he's able to wall somebody and say, nah, you get stuck here from now on. As this Gold Fury is going to get started, Iron Airy and the rest and Promise have recognized it's going to be here. Kirmi leaps in to try to give a little bit of help, but not going to be able to finish it off. Fishies are going to have to pull off the Gold Fury.
Just a little bit of a test there to see how quickly Average Joes are going to react. So Fishies then have that in mind. Okay, we took it down to about this amount of health in this amount of time. All right, if we want to do that again, we need to wait 4 minutes. And then we're going to have enough items, enough damage to take down this Gold Fury before they can react and get there in time. Okay, so up until that point, just farm up. If we can get kills, we can execute this earlier. Ready, break, and just disperse.
And that seems to be the team play, right? And Chronic just trying to see if he can just do something with Uzi as he's able to take a little bit of damage, but stops him. Chronic now looking a little bit on the receiving end of some damage, but Uzi just making sure that, just making sure that he gets some damage out for himself, but he does elect to go for that Stone of Gaia second instead of the Mystical Mail that we normally see supports or soul laners going into. Kirmi getting pushed into a wall, Kirmi getting knocked up, Kirmi gonna fall to Byron Airy, and now the types of drums should be coming up any second now as they're gonna focus on Rinjaru, but he's gonna dash around, making sure that he makes himself invisible. The 1-for-1 trade, the Aegis, Rinjaru will pick him up, but did he die beforehand? The Aegis again, he's still gonna come back up from the Centauri passive, he's gonna giddy up away. Griff is looking a little bit weak, but Rinjaru keeps himself alive because of the passive from the ultimate, and now Chronic is making the rotation. Great freeze, blink, that's gonna be beads on Promise. Leon trying to see if he can maybe just jump away from any damage, but Chronic and Uzi, the soul laners, have made the rotation over. Kirmi for Byron Airy in that pickup. Who wins, AJ? I think jungler for mid. In my opinion, mid falling is way more efficient for the enemy team.
For me, if you ever wonder the question, who wins the engagement, have a look at A, who's been the most impactful over the map so far, and B, more importantly, who was worth the more in value for the kill. And have a look for the net worth. Raijin is higher in net worth, has got an extra level to him, and had a kill under his name before the death. Admittedly, the 4 assists would bring Kirmi up as well, but overall, I would say fight win for the Fishies, especially considering that was one Average Joe's engaged on actively. They seeked it out, they managed to get the kill to begin with. If they managed to kill Rinjaru there, that would be such a different fight. The Centaurus revive. Such a clutch moment there for Fishies to stop the game spiraling and falling into deja vu of, oh, we ran the early game, and now we're losing fights again. Oh god, oh god. It could have done a toll in their mental, but good for them to turn around that fight for a win.
Well, Griff just jumping because he says, hey, I see you two standing on that ward. I'm not going to push up anymore. But Elion says, hey, I see you two on a ward. I kind of want to help out my carry. So he's going to be over on this left-hand side. Ping's coming out. Promise doesn't have beads for him. Promise is going to get absolutely obliterated. The rivers are coming up, and the rivers are going to come crashing back down. But Elion does pick up Rinjaru, not having that ultimate available for him. But a support for a carry does help out the Average Joes. So now they definitely can't do this Gold Fury, and they're able to pick up the Oracles on this Gold Fury for the Average Joes. That's going to help out their case a little bit more.
It's definitely a fight win. Chronic being dove hit by Uzi, but Uzi 2 levels down to this Nike. Something we haven't really mentioned is just how one-sided the soul lane really has gone, how out of hand it's gotten there for Uzi. After the fact that Chronic and the rest of the team of Fishies have invaded onto that blue buff just a couple of times in the past. Sunder has been picked up by Uzi, so no blink available to him, won't be able to progress onto the backline easy. But a Gold Fury taken out by Average Joes to put themselves back within 1,000 gold, just touching distance of the lead.
Well, Kirmi's going to blink in onto Uzi. Uzi doesn't have a power to the tower to run back into. He's going to try to use the ult. Chronic comes back with his own blink. He's going to slow him, but the ultimate comes out. Stop the dropkick from happening. But because I have a massive shield, I can still dive tier 2s. Leon's going to blink now and try to collapse on the Kirmi, and Kirmi looks like he's going to fall here any second now. One auto would do it, and LDR picks it up. Now Chronic has to run for his life. The team has rotated from the Gold Fury side to the Soul Lane side. Chronic gonna get hit with the Raiju, he's gonna get slowed out, he's gonna get knocked up, he's gonna get pulled right back in. Elion picks up the double kill.
Oh, it's all falling apart again for the Fishies. I called it a few minutes ago, the sense of deja vu could return, and it certainly feels like it is. The lead's starting to crumble a little bit, albeit they get a tower in the middle to offset some of that gold. Lost the gold difference, still sitting about 9,000, but look at where it was before. It was over 2,000 in favor of the Fishies. It's crumbled down to about half the experience difference, now in favor of Average Joe's. Pyromancer should help alleviate this some more and give hope back to the Fishies, but Average Joe's putting the hurt back onto the Fishies and getting themselves into a position where they can consider this an even game.
And this has always been the Fishies' problem, right? It seems that every time that they get a good early lead, we say, hey, yeah, the Fishies are doing it. They're coming back. They're going to actually run this game. What's happening? Why are they losing team fights? Okay, what's going on? It just seems like that they don't have the team fight capability that average Joes have had. Now, granted, we have yet to see anything really come out of Promise. He's died 3 times, but he's been around for every single assist because he throws up the River's Rebuke, he comes crashing down, he's dead. He's done the best that he can do with his job, and everybody else just seems to help him out. So really, they're just dumping so much on the support that Fishies can't really do anything else.
And to be fair to Fishies, we haven't really gotten to a full teamfight stage yet. It's been 3v3, 4v4 skirmishes. The solo laners haven't really got involved. The fights we have seen, like I said, 3v3s at most. There was one time where 4 members got involved, but it was started out as a 3 versus 3. So I'm waiting to see what they can do in a full 5 versus 5 team fight, because that's where I believe this comp will look its strongest, when they have the full 3-member frontline of Chronic, Kirby, and Oceans just decimating and creating space for Nehu and Renjaro to do what they do best, which is deal damage.
Chronic is really kind of tanky right now. He's got a 3-level lead over his counterpart, and that does help that he's died 3 times, Uzzy. The Chronic just making sure that he continues on this fight. Once he hits level 20, I don't expect him to be out in this lane for super long, as pings are coming out on the left-hand side of the map saying, hey, this is where they're at, this is where we are. Nothing's really going to happen on that right-hand side. So the left side seems to be where the plays are happening. Promise is getting pinged out. Elion as well, saying, hey, they're right around here. I don't want to jump into this because Wheelix does have that ultimate available for her. So Elion just making sure that he makes his presence known and is able to get some more mid-camp objective. And this is what average Joes want. They seem to have control more of these mid-camps and these neutral objectives.
Neutral objectives is the name of the game for the first 20 or so minutes, at which point it then becomes onto the jungle objectives. Who gets the Gold Fury, who gets the Pyromancer, most importantly, who gets the Fire Giant. The towers certainly starting to play their part, as well as the fact that you can see across the map, tier 1 towers pretty much starting to fall left, right, and center. Right and center are falling so far for the average shows. We all Fishies just lose their tier 1 tower on the left-hand side.
Yeah, it does seem like that tower on the left-hand side of the map for average Joes just needs a light little sneeze, and it will inevitably fall. Grouping around this red buff, and this seems to be where everybody wants to be, is around this red buff. So Nathan's finally able to get his red buff again. Now Baronary is out of position, but he's got the Thunder Crash to be able to get away. Elion just going to, again, secure those mid-objectives. And AJ, it looks to me that they're just trying to push this pressure somewhere on this left-hand side. Promise is a little bit pushed up without too many people around, but the solo laners have started making those rotations. So now here's the 5v5 team fight that we so wanted to see.
Did he spot him?
Baronary is going to go ahead and back away.
Did he back on top of the ward, though? Because that would give information for Fishies that this is a fight that they can take along the gold period and start to push him aggressive to put the wards down. He backed pretty much on the edge of the range. I think he backed just outside of it, which is why we don't see Fishies going all out to push him for aggressive wards. I say that, and then I have a look at their inventory. There's no wards. There's just the one ward on Oceans. You are 21 minutes, 15 seconds into a game. You are a competitive SCC team. You can't have just one ward in your inventory. There has to be at least 4 minimum.
Well, Chronic jumping away from Byronary's damage, and Byronary is almost at this level 20 mark. And speaking of who's at this level 20 mark, it's finally the carries who have made their presence going to be known in these team fights. Griff electing to go with the crit build, and Chiron going with this build that we normally see out of Chiron's Renjaro, just making sure that he goes with the Transcendence build. Primal Fury is going to be the objective that both of these teams fight around, just because that 7% damage on big jungle camps, on all jungle camps actually across the map, will give somebody an advantage. Kings come out recognizing that they're overall on the right-hand side. Griff is going to try to do this. Promise is getting pinged out as well. He's going to see if maybe he can zone everybody out. He's going to slow him with the Riptide, and there comes the River's Rebuke coming out. Byronary is popping the ultimate. Griffin, see if he can get something out of there. Leon is at the back line, but look who's here. Is Kirmi. He's going to throw out the ultimate and try to get some people stunned out. Byronary is going to be able to jump away. Chronic is trying to dive into his own back line, trying to see if he can land on the Baronary. He does not, but he does get the ultimate off that shell. Just immediately gets deleted. Griff will pick him up. Now the fight goes into Griff's favor. With Average Joe want to do something, but Renjaro was able to pick up Baronary. Promise is a little bit leak. Kirmi picks up Elion. This is what the Fishies want. And now Griff is running away with the rest of his life. But Uzzy is here. Renjaro picks up the double kill. Renjaro is looking for this Griff. He's going to try to get the triple kill. It will not happen because Nehu will pick it up. And that is a great win for the Fishies. Picking up 4 for the price of 1. And they're gonna elect to back AJ? They have
Fire
Primal
Giant.
Fury absolutely free.
Fire.
Oh, they're going fire.
It's
Okay,
fire.
okay, they're going fire. Whew. Whew. Okay, AJ, yeah, you're absolutely right. Fire Giant is up. They're gonna back, get some health, buy some items, and go for that Fire Giant. I'm just surprised they didn't do the Primal Fury, maybe even kill Promise and then go fire. But because of the timers, I can see why they're gonna go fire.
Yeah, it's either they get the Primal Fury and then have to contest the fight on Fire Giant, or they can get a free Fire Giant right now. And I love the call from them immediately. Just no hesitation. We took this fight around Gold Fury. Want to go Fury? No. Back, heal up, go get the Fire Giant right now and start to solidify this lead from that team fight that we've just won single-handedly. I mean, Chronic went in, got obliterated by the Sunder. I don't think he was expecting the amount of damage that he received there, but then the turnaround just absolutely beautiful from Renjaro and Kirby to isolate targets one after the other, starting with Bayoneri. He looked like he was going to be out there for a second, all the way back underneath the tier 2. No, he's gone. He's down. He's out. He's killed. And Fishies, one by one, start to pick up members because of their superior grouping.
And now is where we start seeing that 5v5 fight that we so desperately wanted to see, AJ. The Spectral Armor does come out for Oceans. That will stop some of that crit damage coming out for Griff. But now everybody is recognizing that, hey, they're on this Gold Fury yet again because they need to push down this left-hand side because that's where the minions are, in all honesty. Primal Fury is at half, and Ocean's trying to see if he can wall off. And he got a big wall, but a better impale comes out. Byronary wastes his ultimate. He's not going to hit one person. Actually, he does hit Oceans and able to get the Soul Gem proc. But now this Primal Fury will be absolutely free for the Fishies. Uzzy is now caught between a rock and a hard place. Yurmi's trying to help him out. He pulled in. Neho got pulled in by Elion. Elion gets absolutely blown up. Promise has kept Neho away, but Renjaro picks up one. Griff will pick up Nehu. Byronary is able to get the Thunder Crash out.
Oh, Akemi is getting aggressive again onto Bayoneri. The tower is not safe. And Bayoneri has been toasted. Griff is next up on the shopping block. He's forced to use beads, forced to use the Aegis. It's not going to save him. Renjaro picks up that kill. Promise has been stunned. Beads is good, but the wall is even better. Renjaro picks up a double kill. Fishies, now is your time. Now is your chance. Go get this Phoenix and probably even end the game. Look at the respawn timers.
To end the game. They respawn timers are so high. Uzzy is the only one left that can help out Eldion in any case. They are running down to this Titan room. Eldion's the only one available. They're going to get pinged out as he's going to leap right on in. The Titan is under attack. Eldion is around. The beats come out. He's going to use the Feather Step to get away from the damage, but it's too little too late. That Titan is at 1/4 health. That's going to do it. Fishies will take game number 1.
And that is a big boon to Fishies. They've got game 1 of this set. Can they get game number 2 and secure a 2-0 unprecedented victory for them and take the second set that they've taken in this SCC split so far and condemn Average Joe's to absolutely needing that win next week to get 4th seed? It is a fantastic performance from Fishies to get this win, and I'm all for them.
Yeah, Fishies showed exactly what we wanted to see out of them. They had a little bit of problem in the mid game, AJ. No one's gonna lie about that, but they were able to bring it back. Kirmi and Oceans seem to be one of their two of their 3 biggest players, with Chronic on the back end. Chronic was just out of his mind, only dying twice, but it was a part of 10 kills with assists and 1 kill of his own. Now, granted, most of that happened over on Uzzy in the Soul Lane side, but when he actually showed presence in these team fights, his presence was known.
I mean, for me, there's just one thing that was consistently winning Fishies these fights. Walls. Wherever Oceans was, wherever he dictated the fights took place, they won those fights. I mean, Promise, every single time we used the River's Rebuke, Oceans was just clogging up one of the exits, and the exit that Emotion wanted to use, and she could get absolutely nowhere. Every single time there was a retreat path, there was Oceans there with another wall. He was a dominant force in this team here.
Well, will Fishies be able to take another dominant game in game number 2? We'll find out right after this break. Well, the Fishies showed us in game number 1 that sometimes being a better team fighting comp in the early game can help win. Will they be able to do that in game number 2? I'm Fuzzy Wuzzy. Still with me is Alpha Jackal and Alpha. We kind of gave Fishies a little bit of a identity when it came to their sort of play style. They do really well in the early game, and then they just kind of falter in the end game. And we saw a glimmer of the falter, but Average Joe's just not able to pick it up, and Fishies were able to pick up that win in game 1.
Yeah, just one team fight changed the entire dynamic of that game. That Gold Fury defense call started out quite well from Average Joe's, getting the first blood in that fight onto Chronic. But after that, the rest of the team fight just goes the way of Fishies. One by one, the members fall. All of a sudden, over goes to Fire Giants, and then from there, the game was pretty much over in the blink of an eye. And Fishies, well-fought victory and well-earned victory.
Yeah, well, we are going to jump into picks and bans for game number 2, and I would not be surprised if Average Joe's ban out Ymir. Oceans on Ymir was absolutely 100%. Amazing, and it just get rid of it. Just don't even worry about it. Okay, they ban out the Sobek, nothing to worry about. You know, they have 2 more bans, but I wouldn't be surprised if that ban comes out because, as you mentioned, Oceans just kind of ran the show with those Ymir walls.
Yeah, every single time Oceans gets this Ymir, he looks incredibly good with it, he looks incredibly strong with it, and showcases why it's almost a necessary ban to go up against the Fishies, just because of how controlling that he is and how comfortable he looks on this pick. Tsukuyomi, again, I can see the appeal of taking that away, but this third ban has to be Ymir. Come on, Average Joe's, you can do it. Just it's why you. It's the Chiron.
They ban out the Chiron. Average Joe's ban out Chiron. Fishies now have to say, do we want to get Ymir here or not? They do ban out the Tiamat. Average Joe's. They can pick it here for themselves, though, AJ. So maybe that was their big brave plan over the wall. But we know this. They're not going to, and Fishies will get Oceans to pilot that Ymir yet again. Average Joe's taking a little bit of time with this pick, and AJ, it's got to be the Ymir, right? There's nothing here that screams out. It has to be, right? You think Gilgamesh? They're gonna go with Raijin? They're going to first pick Raijin. They're going to try to salty run back this. Fishies, just take the Ymir and take anything else. There it is. The first it's the lock Ymir. Now you're going to take the Nike because why not? It worked for you. Just pick it again. But they're going to pick the On Her this time. That's going to help out a little bit more. That's going to be a powerful duo lane, though.
Yeah, the On Her take up here takes it away from Average Joe's and just allows him to be a bit more aggressive in this early game laning phase. I mean, you thought the early game was strong last time with Ymir. Now it's got the On Her backing up it. It's absolutely insane. This is an aggressive, I'm going to kill you straight away lane here from the duo side.
Sun Wukong gets locked in for the solo laner for Average Joe's, and I don't think you run back the Emoja. I like this this next pick a little bit better. Just seems like that with that Ohm presence they're going to be able to have with the damage mitigations while he's in there. And then, of course, one of the biggest damaging abilities when he comes to that ultimate and the pillars come up. It just seems to me that this Gilgamesh can actually work out, especially if he places the pillars right on top of where Oceans is ulting in the Ymir.
Yeah, so it is certainly a welcome pickup here. Can dash through the walls to get himself out of danger. A lot better than the Emoji could get away from these situations. Can delay the engage. Can also do well against the Merlin. Stop him flickering away. Force him to use that beat if he wants to use that escape. So I like the switch of average shows. Their composition a lot more finely balanced. The difference, though, is that I just don't see the Ganesh and Raijin meshing well together. It's not a combo that I immediately go, oh, this wins the mid 2v2.
Yeah, it just doesn't scream that way, but it can potentially do so if Merlin does get ohmed out of that flicker and Raijin's got the Raiju that was attached to him. Maybe some damage can come out. Surprising enough, though, Fishies don't want to see Jingwei. We got on a little bit of a rant this morning, AJ, about Jingwei not being good, and I am still kind of a fan of the Jingwei, but I am kind of a fan of the fact that she got banned because that safety just keeps her alive, and so finally the colon ban will going to be banned out. So Nike's still available. Sun Wukong was the one that was picked up for average Joes. Maybe Osiris. They are going to suffer over this Nike, and it worked last time, and it can come onto this Sun Wukong again, but I don't know how effective it would be against the Sun Wukong.
I kind of agree with the Nike pick. I think it did well last game. With the supports constantly picking up Sunder, you're sort of doing a Sunder war with the other supports. But if you then just have a second target where you have to Sunder the Nike or she's going to run amok in the backline, that means your supports then infinitely tanky. In fact, they're 20% tankier because they're taking less damage. With all the ADC bans, Huyi definitely is the pick up here. I know what you're thinking. It's a pick we haven't seen too much of, but with ADCs going into Bluestone and Transcendence, then going into, a bit more of an attack speed oriented build, Huyi can sort of benefit from that, can jump over the wall from Ymir, and I'm just going to let the rest of the draft speak for itself.
Osiris and Huyi get locked in, definitely helping out with that Ymir, as you mentioned, being able to walk through walls and jump over it. But Kirmi, going to be piloting this Erlong Shin, something that we haven't quite seen a lot out of the jungle as of late, but still a potent pick in the jungle, because as you mentioned, Eye of the Jungle seems to be good, some Stone Cutting Sword seems to be good, and when you just get some attack speed on the Erlong Shin, he kind of just swings and hurts.
Oh, he absolutely chunks. In fact, there was a time, and the longest time, he was the best jungler in the game because of just the fact that he insta-killed you at level 2 or level 3. That knock-up in that turtle form, followed by the pin, and then the spot weakness, just makes him a monster to trade out with.
Well, will Fishies be able to take this to 2-0, or will Average Joes be able to pick up the 1-1 victory? As we're going to find out that answer as we jump into game number 2 between both of these teams. And I got to say, I really dig Average Coach Comp just a little bit better. But Kirmi is electing to go into a Mannequin Scepter? A Mannequin Scepter on this. I dig it, but it also doesn't give the sustain that we normally would see out of like Eye of the Jungle or the Boomba's Hammer.
I mean, this is an aggressive pickup here from Kirby. This is the early game centric pickup that's a lot of junglers just foregone in recent days. I mean, the only other time we've seen the Mannequin Scepter has been when Ice has played Sylvanas Jungle. I can't think of another time we have seen this pickup because of just how much this item has been nerfed in recent patches, how much this item has just been gutted. Yet it's still now being picked up here by Kirby. I don't know. We'll have to see how this plays out for him.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what's going to happen. As I think he might look for a cheeky, like little level 2 gank after he gets this back camp over here on the right hand side of the map. He's got that blink available, and he can clear buffs pretty effectively. So he is going to start coming in and see if maybe he can do it. He's going to Minx form in, but he's going to elect to grab the right camps, which that is a respectable pickup. You're able to get Nehu a little bit of experience. You're able to get yourself a little bit more experience. The junglers haven't quite made their rotation for Elion. He was still over on the blue buff side, so a little bit pressure on the soul lane as well for Chronic. This is starting to look eerily similar to what we saw in game number 1 for the Fishies.
Yeah, they get the pressure in the early game. They get this neutral farm secured as much as possible. Nehu having to go in a bit of a safer route as just being pressured out by Leon and Bayoneri. They're going aggressive. They're going all in here.
They're going all in the mid lane as Pink comes out, as Elion's able to pick up Nehu, but Kirmi is on Byronary. The Manic Scepter ticks are coming out. The Finn comes out, beats, he doesn't have the knockup. That's going to be a knockup for Kirmi as he goes into the turtle form. That will be a 1-for-1 trade, mid for mid. Byronary, actually, Elion picking up the first blood. That will help out that jungler, but yeah, that aggression in the mid lane, kind of surprising to see, but look who's made the rotation over. Promise for level 2 made a rotation over just to help out Elion, making sure that Kirmi doesn't attach to him.
It's because Kirmi is just that aggressive and that dangerous to deal with. Griff being knocked away by Renjaru. Early game rotation back to base from Ocean. No, he doesn't. Oh, this is a blink. This is aggressive play. This is one. This is going to be a kill. This should be a kill. No, leap away from Griff. He's diving. Oh, no, he's not.
He was trying to dive. His promise is here. He's just make sure that nothing happens. The blink did come out, and Griff was able to expend the beads. So beads for blink kind of does help. Now that Griff doesn't have those beads available, Kirmi might look to see if he can be a little bit aggressive over on this left-hand side. But with that leap that Griff has on this Hou-Yi, it's going to be hard to really lock him down, as you mentioned in the draft phase.
Yeah, I like the pickup from Oceans, though. The fact that he backed to base early, picked up these reinforced Greaves. What's one thing that Ymir suffers from? He suffers from being locked down early with his lack of mobility. So what do? Get 18% movement speed online before anybody else has it, and then also get yourself a bit of tankiness to boot, with some extra health and some extra protections. It is a perfect play for the Ymir to make him almost immortal earlier on.
Well, Renjaro was just laughing because he recognized that Elion was walking over a ward, so nothing's going to really come out of that rotation from him. And as Elion was able to pick up his solo, basically the XP from the purple buff, that will put Griff just a little bit behind. Nothing to worry about here, though, as Uzi is in here trying to see if maybe he can get his own farm. Kirmi is just going to see if he can maybe steal something. Does place out a ward, but not going to be able to contest those little Harpies. But he is around just to say, hey, Chronic, I'm here. We can do something maybe. Pink's coming out to make sure that everybody knows that they're on the right-hand side of the map, but nothing will come of it as Kiri's going to back away.
Just backing off and not looking to put the aggression on a bit more, as he almost had a sixth sense for that gank, I feel. There wasn't a ward out that told him for sure that there was somebody there, but with Chronic being pushing him under the tower for the most part and then backing off at that point, as a solo laner, you would know that it's going to be a trap.
Yeah, and since he got ganked so many times at this point in the game, in game number 1, it's almost like a sixth sense of like, hey, I remember this situation in game 1, I'm going to not be here anymore. As Pings are coming out and saying, hey, they've got wards on my blue buff, they got wards on the back camps, they'll know where we're at. As Ocean's is pinging out that they're on these oracles, and now recognizing that Elion is over on the left-hand side, Pings are coming out for a rotation. Maybe they're going to see if something comes out of it. But Elion electing to back away from the carry because Oceans was picking it out, and the mid lane and the jungle have made their presence known on these oracles. Freeze comes out, Elion has to pop the beast, the tether comes out as well. Promise doesn't have the ultimate available for him, neither does Oceans, but Kirmi taking a lot of damage from the Raijin, but Elion getting pillared into the wall. That's going to be the ultimate drop from Griff as well. Nothing really expending out of it, just a lot of beads and a couple of ultimates expended. Kind of a big win, in my opinion, for Fishies.
Yeah, 2 ults for 1. The one that was used by Kirmi just to sustain himself back up rather than look to get the taunt. He tried to taunt, but Promise with his silence was able to block that off. Promise now has his ultimate available to him, which is why he didn't see the Dynamic Pillars dropped earlier on. Ocean's still over 4, no access to that Shards of Ice, which I imagine he would have used there to zone off Elion's stun. But something we haven't touched upon yet is the fact that this is an Osiris jungle. There's so many things going on. Kirmi playing a Urlog Shen, a pick we haven't seen for a long time, and then also going Manic Scepter. The fact that Oceans is back on his Ymir, the fact that they've had this aggressive early game start on this left-hand side, the Hou-Yi picked up, but the Elion's Osiris jungle has fallen a bit to the wayside. It is a pick that we've seen reprised occasionally by certain junglers. It's a good early game and mid game option, can even transition to that late game quite strongly, as well as a bruiser jungler diving in, doing a lot of damage whilst also retaining some of that tankiness thanks to his passive mitigations.
I find it interesting, though, that he elects to go into the Warriors tabby instead of the Ninja tabby, though. Usually with an Osiris jungle, you want to do some more auto-attack-based damage, but instead he goes for the more power item with this Warriors tabby. Is the reason being just so that that Sickle can do a little bit more damage or anything like that? Like, what would be the purpose behind going the Warriors tabby over something like Ninja tabby that we would see out of an Osiris jungle?
Just abusing the fact that Osiris has dumb scaling on his abilities. But yeah, I said it. He has dumb scaling on his ability. Yeah, he has so much power on his abilities thanks to the fact that it scales. His one, I think it has about 60% scaling on the fact that, no, it's 45% of your physical power, but it feels something like 80% just because of the fact that it's up every 6 seconds. Look at that, 75% scaling on a Spirit Flail as well, which is up quite often too. His poke potential is enormous, so you abuse it by going this Warrior Tap.
Whoa, Blink comes out, hear me, and then that's going to be the Dharmic Pillars going in. Ocean saying, I'm going to get locked in. Uzi will pick up 1, Uzi will pick up 2. Will Uzi be able to pick up 3? Nehu has made a rotation and picked up Elion. Nehu doesn't have a whole lot available, so Uzi's going to try to leap in onto Nehu. Nothing going to really come out of it as Chronic now seems to be the target. He's going to get slowed. Looks like Byron Aries is up into the ultimate, but he will not be able to connect onto anybody. So that's going to be it, but able to pick up 2. Fishies fell to the wayside, and that's kind of a big win for Average Joe's, even though they did expend a lot of ultimates for that.
A big ultimate expended, but it was a fight engaged by Fishies. Kirby blinking in with that taunt, almost at the same time as Promise uses Dharmic Pillars. Also like a game of, okay, we both want to fight here, but I would give the edge of the engagement going to Fishies, and then they just got caught out by the Ohm. No one was able to do any damage sort of follow-up to the rest of the members, just extra protections going to the members inside that Ohm circle meant that Kirby just wasn't as effective as he could have been.
Griff just jumping away because he recognizes that there is a lot of people coming for him. The leap is available, the freeze comes out, and the suns get dropped as well. Doesn't look like that he was able to secure his own purple buff, so that ultimate was expended for not getting a whole lot out of it, but he was able to get himself alive, and that was the most important fact in the matter. Griff drops the suns just to keep himself alive.
He drops the suns not just to keep himself alive, but to try and steal away that purple buff. Unsuccessful at that endeavor. So just back to base for him at that point. Leon tries to invade, is successful in getting something. That's something being most of his health bar being taken away.
You know, that he was able to walk through those vines. The blink comes out from Chronic, but Uzi is there just to stop him. He does get the Tiger form to land onto him. Uzi able to do a little bit of damage onto Chronic, but Chronic able to walk away. A lot expended for Chronic as well. The blink came out as well, and Elion was able just to walk right on through the vines. Osiris passage, just showing why it's so important in this jungle.
I mean, I've seen people do some crazy plays with Osiris and these vines, but I've seen some people hide with full passive in the vines. The second somebody comes to clear them, they're just caught unawares by an Osiris randomly appearing and then starting to fight them. It has been absolutely crazy. It's happened to me once, and I got caught so unawares that I just died instantly, thinking, wow, well played. I need to use that at some point.
I don't think I've ever seen that, and if we see that in this game, AJ, I'm going to just quote that back onto you, because if that actually happens, then unbelievable. I've never seen it happen. Granted, I'm not in that like higher play sort of mentality when it comes to jungle Osiris, something that I don't really see quite that often. I'm used to seeing something a little bit more conventional, but hey, you know, these SCC players, they play to their strengths, and this Osiris is definitely one of the strengths. As Promise gets freezed out, the Dharmic Pillars gets dropped, beads get expended as well. The Ohm comes out, Kirmi thought if he could try to get it out, but Byron Aries picked up Kirmi. Oceans is able to pick up Promise. Uzi's up there, but Byron Aries is able to pick up the double kill. Now Chronic is collapsing onto Oceans as Nehu is around just to see if he can do something. Raiju will go ahead and try to get a little bit of damage with the slow, and the Tick's not able to do anything too much, as Renjaro is able to ult on the left-hand side to steal that purple buff away. Nothing really coming out of the engagement on the right-hand side, except, hey, I'm just going to take your purple buff, Chronic, or your blue buff, Chronic, because that's my reward for killing a couple people on your team.
This is what I want to see if this is your first pick. Bayonary on this Raijin has done a lot more in this game, more so than they did in the last game. All the setup, though, has come from the little switches that they've done. They've gotten the tankier, beefier frontliner in the jungle in the Osiris rather than the Wheelix. And like you said, it's not that bait pick anymore. Uzi having a much better time on this Sun Wukong than he did in the King Arthur against this Nike. And it's all coming together on this right-hand side. It's no longer Fishies running the jungle, it's Average Joe's.
And that's what needs to keep going as Average Joe's running this jungle. We do know that Fishies have a great team fight, and since they have a very similar comp to what they had in Game 1, wouldn't be surprised if they look to do something here that's in Game 2, maybe start grouping up a little bit earlier. Nehu just making sure that everybody is aware of where Renjaro is. Pings are coming out saying, hey, these are wards, this is where Kirmi is, and just making sure everybody's aware that everybody is on that right-hand side, so maybe they can start trying to posture for a Gold Fury. But instead, Byron Aries can take the gold that he got back, And he's got an early Charon's coin, AJ. Got 2 stacks already on it. That could spell some disaster coming out of it if it stacks up any more. Because Charon's coin, it's something that we see often in the early-ish pick, but nothing too crazy. As Ojaro is going to get absolutely collapsed on. The beats come out. Elyon just going to do Osiris things and casually dive a tier 1 tower.
Level 11 Renjaro doesn't have access to a second relic, which would have been an Aegis. That definitely would have saved his life there. So well-timed gank from Leon, and Griff played that perfectly as well. Played as aggressive as he needed to without overstepping his mark. Forces out the jump early on. Gets the ultimate to lock him down a bit further. Leon caught up with a freeze zone. That's going to spell a fight engage here for Average Joe's.
Well, Oceans will actually fall to Griff because the Dharmic Pillars were placed right in the middle, and he just said, well, I can't do anything about this. And Uzi, kind of in the same boat. Can't do anything about 2 people over on the right-hand side of the map. But what I can do is yell at my team to grab a Gold Fury, and a Gold Fury will fall to Average Joe's. Average Joe's are showing why this game needs to go into Game 3. And in all honesty, it's falling on the back of Elyon here on this Osiris pickup, and with the Fishies picking up this Pyromancer.
For me, it's just been on the back of the fact that Elyon and Promise have roamed the map together as a 2-man for the most part. Every single time there's a fight, there's the Ganesh locking some people in with the Dharmic Pillars and silencing people, giving the team some AoE protections, whilst Leon is there fighting and frontlining as best as he can. And it just makes this Osiris unbelievably difficult to kill. You got extra protections coming out from his Stone-Cutting Sword, extra mitigations coming out from his passive, extra protections coming out from the Ohm around him, with Warrior scaling on top of that rather than Assassin scaling. My god, is he beefy.
Yeah, he's going to be a beefy boy, and he's got that Winged Blade already online to stop some slows coming out of Oceans and out of Renjaro, so that will help him out with a little bit more movement speed. You want to talk about running it down, that's what they're going to do. They're just going to run it down at whoever they want, and Elyon sees the target, he's going to be like a target acquired and just kill them. It's happened over on the left-hand side when we saw Renjaro fall, and I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing happen with Nehu or with Chronic or even with Kirmi.
So Average Joes have plundered themselves into a 2k lead 13 minutes into the game. They find themselves up 3 kills, but they do find themselves down that all-important first game. Experience difference looking pretty similar to the gold difference as well, just shy of 2,000 in favor of Average Joe. So far, so good if you're a fan of the blue squad. But if you're a fan of Fishies, this is where it's important. The next 5 minutes are crucial for this game for them. Can they start to find even a semblance of a fight win? Can they start to slow down Average Joe's speed in these team fights? Or do they start falling by the wayside like we've seen them do time and time again? This next 5 minutes are crucial to answer those questions.
Well, Kirmi is going to try to ult, and he's going to try to dip, dodge, and dive away from the ultimate from Byronarian. Because of that Thunder Crash already being expended, the Aegis gets popped out. Kirmi gets stuck within the Dharmic Pillars. It's going to take a little bit of damage, but Elyon will make sure that he falls. Elyon picking up Kirmi in that tier 1 tower.
Well, it looks so good for Kimmy to get out of that situation, and all of a sudden, this Judgment Tether stun happens whilst he's on the Dharmic Pillar's threshold. Takes a load of damage, still has the mark on him. Bayonary turns around, gets the mark procced on him. Down, just ticking away. Leon with the Spirit Flare just to confirm the kill. Unfortunate for Kimmy, who did so well to live up until that point.
Yeah, he tried his best, and even threw out the ultimate. And he got the juke boots on, too, it seemed. He threw out the ultimate, and he was juking left and right from Baronary, and then all of a sudden he pinned Baronary, got the Aegis, and he's like, yes, I've got the win. Oh, hey, the rest of the squad is here. Oh, Elyon's here. Oh, I'm dead now. It just seems like that it seems like that time and time again. It's the Elyon and Promise combo, like you've mentioned, because of the Ohm and because of the tankiness factor that can come out for this. It just screams that, hey, wherever Elyon is, Promise is going to be right behind, or kind of vice versa. Wherever Promise is, Elyon's going to be right there.
So I'm looking at this Fishies roster and thinking, okay, the 3v3 still doesn't work so far. Let's call in backup. Let's call in reinforcements. Let's start making this a 5 versus 5 as early as possible. Get Renjaro and Chronic in these fights ASAP, because it's not working. You need a change of pace, and the only way you're going to change these fights is if you start to involve more people. And Renjaro, on her, you wanted to be fighting in the early game. You wanted to be part of these team fights earlier on. So get him involved. Start the fight over on this left-hand side of the map.
Kirmi has spotted out his target. He sees that Byronary might be it. Pings are coming out. Promise is around with Byronary, and Oceans is with Nehu, so nothing's going to come from that engagement. He was trying to dash away, and he was able to get that effectively. But Kirmi was around to see if maybe he can get something with this, but pings are coming out saying, hey, look at rotations. I just like the communications that's coming out of Average Joe's. Every time I look at the map, there's always pings coming out from them saying, hey, they just went to this jungle, expect this way. Hey, they're going this way. You know, they're always communicating visually, and I really like that communication. And I think that's what's kind of separated them off of Game 1, because there wasn't that communication in Game 1.
No, and Average Joe suddenly look at the more cohesive unit in this game. Fishies more disjointed than they've been in recent games, especially conspired to last game. It's just a role reversal here. Average Joe's the ones that are looking like the more dominant 5th seed, and Fishies looking more like the 6th seed that we've sort of expected.
Well,
so
at 16
right
minutes
now,
in, 60 minutes in, gold lead's still there. Promise, just making sure that, Griff is able to get this. But Chronic, as you mentioned, they are starting to make that 5-man rotation. So it's gonna be interesting to see what's gonna happen, because that Primal Fury is about to spawn.
So Primal Fury is going to be the name of the game here. Fishy, 17 minutes into the game, have stemmed the bleeding from Average Joe starting to take a hold of this game. Now it's time for them to put up in this next team fight. They've rotated in Chronic, they've rotated in Nenjaru. Now it's time to get this win. It's time to force the front line to bend. It's time to force the space for Nehu and Jaru to do what they did in the last game, which is cause havoc and make the damage possible.
Well, and when you have Leon on this Osiris, who's just able to be a part of that front line, you think, hey, tanky factor, you've got your solo laner, you've got your support. You wouldn't expect the jungler to be tanky on top of that as well. But Leon, he doesn't have the tank option available. With the Osiris passive, with those mitigations, he's just kind of a monster to deal with. Look how fast he's moving, AJ. That's full Osiris passive, and he's just roaming around like lightning almost.
Yeah, it's the movement speed that he's got from being, the jungler. He's lost the movement speed buff now, needs to go pick that back up, but he's got boots, he's got wing blade, he's got a stone cutting sword, and he's going into another blade right now from that katana tree, just constantly building up more and more movement speed. It is difficult to lock this man down, especially with that wing blade passive, giving him even more should he be hit by a slow from any of these Ymir abilities.
Well, Leon has made his way into the back, and Ocean's figured it out. He's going to blink and freeze him, as Leon had to pop the beads away. Griff not able to connect that stun onto Oceans, as Nehu is now in the back getting collapsed on by Uzi. Uzi has to go into the ultimate just to survive himself. Promise dropped his ultimate as well. Kirmi keeping everybody at bay.
This is a good fight for Fishies.
This is a great fight for Fishies, as Chronic's going to come in and slow Uzi. Uzi's going to use the beads. The wall will not matter. He's going to get away with nuggets of health. But now it seems like this Primal Fury will actually go in the way of Fishies. Chronic is just making sure that Griff gets zoned out, stops the auto attack, but Griff does have the Suns available for him. They could bait this in, as it looks like the Chronic is going to leap in. The Sunder comes out. Promise is going to throw out the Ohm. There's the Suns. Byron Aries throwing out the barrels as well. Ocean's getting absolutely obliterated by Griff, and that will fall, but Griff going out with just nuggets of health as well. Leon going to make sure that they continue to not do this, as the Primal Fury will not get started by the Fishies.
Oh, it was so good for them to begin with. They survived the initial engage from Average Joe's. They all Uzi down to a slither of health, forced him to back. They had the 5 versus 4, and then the engage just a bit short there from Fishies. Ocean sacrifices his life just to get a little bit of damage and almost gets a kill of his own. And that's the tale of Fishies time and time again. It's those almost, it's that nearly. They've almost won sets in the past. They've almost won games. They've almost won team fights. It's just that little bit extra push. It's just been that big hurdle, a little bit too high for them.
Yeah, it's the team of almost, as you mentioned, and it just seems like that's coming back in full force. As they really should have won that fight, AJ. It was pretty much, hey, this is Fishy's fight to lose. And sure enough, they did lose it. And to be honest, I'm not sure where they lost it. We did see Oceans absolutely just get annihilated by Griff because of is that Ichabal that we see out there? Ichabal being picked up for this Ho Yi. And he's just being able to pierce through that protection that this Ymir has, and making sure that he has that auto attack, and then the Sun's dropping on top of him. And then, of course, you have Promise drop the Dharmic Pillars as well. It just seemed like all the damage was on Oceans. And sure enough, once Oceans fell, they knew, hey, that's our star boy. We need to back off.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that you brought up this Ikival for Griff on the Hu Yi. It's not an item that we see often, but it is a good pickup here. I subscribe to the sort of Zapman theory that there are some anti-boxing ADCs out there. You have Heimdall, you have Hu Yi as sort of the top two in that category by far. And what do they want to do? They want to reduce your attack speed. They want to just make life in a... Hell, Bayonna's going to get an edge with no beats available. This could be a kill here against the mid lane mage. He gets out with a slither again.
Oh, no, he got out because of the tick from Mannequin Scepter. Kiermi being able to do it off. Now Griff is the one that's going to fall. Ocean's picking him up. The Desert Fury happens. Promise will fall. Elion is the only one left. It's Elion gets the world. Ozzy picks up one, though, in the back line. Elion had to throw out the bees, but Kiermi will pick him up. That's a double kill. Now Ozzy is the only one left. He's going to try, but he's going to get absolutely walled in. He's going to be able to get up into the sky and heal, but Chronic and everybody is making sure that wherever he lands, he's going to find somebody as the slow comes out, but it won't matter. He's in the bull form, and that's going to be a big win for the Fishies. Exactly what we wanted to see in a blink, like, disengage from Ozzy, but he's just trying to stall out for time, but it won't matter. Chronic is just going to be able to be around. And now this
Fire?
Pyromancer seems to be the call, it looks like, but they could look for Fire, AJ. Kiermi is around.
Fire? It's gonna be a fire. Yeah, I mean, they've got Kermi on the rotation. He's a basic attack base gun, and with On Her on it as well, they should be able to take this down no problem. The respawns have happened from average shows. Do they get here in time? No, they do not.
No.
And Nehu's gonna be able to pick this up as well. He's respawning just in time for this fire giant to be taken down, and Fishies, that started out with one of those almost moments again. Bayonary gets out with a slur of health, and I'm thinking, oh no, it's happened once more. They almost kill a target and it gets out. But the MVP of Mannequins gets the kill and sets them up for success in that fight. Average shows, one by one they fall. Just great engage. All because Bayonary didn't have beads. He got picked off because he didn't have beads, couldn't get over the wall in time, and it comes back down to Oceans playing Ymir once again.
It just was crazy to see how they were able to chain that CC on top of Bayonary, right? He threw the pen out, then he auto-attacked, then Oceans freezed him, and the auto-attacks some more, and then he was able to leap away, but because of MVP Mannequin Scepter getting that final tick off, he was able to fall, and that's just remarkable that they were able to do that. But now, even though they got the Fire Giant, they're going to have to look to push somewhere. But Elion is going to push this Pyromancer response, and that will help a little bit with this gold lead. That's going to creep back up into Average Joe's favor. But once Tier 2 start to fall, it's going to start looking a little bit scary for them.
Now, Pyromancer goes down for Average Joe's. Tier 2 tower going to be the call here for Fishies, just walking in and taking it down. You see 4 members here. The 5th member, Chronic, on the map, just zoning out in the jungle where possible. Looks to be setting up for the mid lane push that they're going to be doing in just a second. Go back into the jungle. Not looking for the Phoenixes just yet. Get as much gold off the map as possible before you start sieging the base. This is how you should spend your Fire Giant if you are in an even game. Take the towers, take the gold off the map, go back to base, spend it, so you can solidify your lead and secure the next Fire Giants, and then go in and push the base.
And I do like how Ocean's just warding around the map, making sure that he's got visions on everybody in this lane. The mid tower will fall. They looked like they were trying to just stall out the Fire Giant for as long as possible. Elion did make the rotation, able to get that Pyromancer, but had to back and then come right back into the lane. So now they're going to push this right-hand side, it seems. Actually, they're going to back away because they want to buy some more items. And hey, I'm level 20 Merlin. I'm going to go ahead and get my upgraded Sands of Time and go into the Pay-and-Dilemma, get some wards. And picks up a Soul Reaver as well, AJ. Something I haven't seen in quite a bit.
It makes sense when you have a look at what Average Joe's have got as their team comp. A beefy frontliner in Ozzy, a beefy frontliner in Promise, and a not-so-beefy frontliner in El Leon. It's not going to have too much effect on him, but it's all about just getting that initial damage off, getting that magical power, extra damage off on top of them to begin with, just to try and whittle down their health a little bit harder.
Gold Fury has spawned. Fishies have the Fire Giant still around their waist. All 5 members have it. Ozzy's trying to see if he can reach around the back and see if he can get anybody there. Renjaro just starting off the Gold Fury a little bit. He's going to get stunned out, and that's going to be his beads expended. As now, Ozzy absolutely gets annihilated. And Leon trying to get away, but the beads and the ultimate expended. Kiermi has now got his target. He will fall to Kiermi here at any second. That's a killing spree for him. Promise dropped the ultimate as well, so he will have to get away. But almost a 2-man freeze, but Bayonary beats it regardless, even though the own from Promise came out. Chronic will pick up Promise. Griff had to expend his beats as well. Doesn't have the freeze available. Renjaro will pick him up. They could end off of this. Bayonary has no ultimate. The minions are going to pour down this middle Phoenix. they can look to end this. This could be a 2-0 for the Fishies, and it's exactly what they needed, AJ.
This is exactly what, like you said, this is what they need going into this final week. A clean 2-0 against the 5th seeded Average Joes to put them in position to potentially take the 5th seed away from them. Give themselves better options in the relegations. The Titans falling down, 10 seconds on Uzi. That's the target they need to be careful of. They don't care, they're taking their Bayonary. That's going to be the game. Fishies with the 2-0.
Fishies 2-0ing the next seed, and now this just becomes a lot more interesting here in the NASCC. The Fishies have their fate in their hands, whereas Average Joes have to kind of do what the Fishies were doing and rely just on one person to fail to see if they're able to get that. But great win from Fishies. We kind of threw them to the wayside, AJ, saying, hey, they're looking like the almost team again. They almost did this. They almost did this. And then the switch clicked. And now they got a 2-0.
Hey, that fight, that last fight, where did Uzi even go? He's got quite a decent build to do damage, just not quite the build you want to be doing for a frontline, especially against a Merlin. My guess is he got caught in the Merlin flames and just melted. Very little health on that build, very little in the way of pure magical defense, and just suffered for it. And then one by one, the dominoes fell. Leon in the back loses a 1v1 to Kermie because of the fact he had to use his Sword of the Afterlife early on. And then Promise does what he needed to do. He gets the silence onto Oceans to stop the good engage, but the rest of the team just, pure instinct of fear and panic, uses the beads anyway.
Yeah, it just seemed like that nothing was quite synergizing for that Average Joe's team, but Fishies do pick up the 2-0. And if I'm a Fishies fan, I'm really excited because, hey, they looked really promising in this week. And next week, if they win, they have a chance, AJ, of actually going into the playoffs. And I would be really excited if I was a fan.
Oh, I'm very excited. This is the start of something new. This is step 1 of the Great Escape. Step 2 happens next week. And who knows what that future will bring. They still have to rely on Average Joe's doing them a favor now that they've beat them. But it could be a little bit of a licking their wounds and not really, helping out the one that just beat you.
Well, that's going to wrap us up here for the NASCC. I am Fuzzy Wuzzy, and on behalf of everybody that's here, Alpha Jackal, Jithins, Rosie, and myself, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.